How's it going, ladies and bruises? I'm Bobby Sixkilla. Welcome back to Sekimeiya. We just had that interesting story, and you know, everything's kind of gone to shit. But I don't even know what's happening. Let's just carry on, shall we, and see if we can make sense of it all. That was a story I'd once written. I'd always been prone to letting my imagination run wild, and sometimes I'd make up full little stories. Unable to sleep one night, I thought of that one. It was a very shallow story, but that night I felt the need to write it down, which I never tended to do. Of course, I'd never shown it to anyone, but every time I thought of it, a strong and bittersweet emotion would fill my brain. When I opened the piece of paper and read the four lines on it, every word of that story came back to me. Hello, I'm sorry I have to write this. I still can't believe what happened. I haven't been able to stop crying, but I've always tried to tell myself that these things just occur. I know how selfish it is that I'm writing this, but I won't be able to live with myself if I don't. I need to say it. I've always wanted to, and I can't believe I never will. I love you. My hand hadn't stopped trembling, and my heart began to catch up to it. What in the world was I reading? I jumped back to the story I'd written a couple of years prior for a very simple reason. The handwriting on the note was my own. But it couldn't be. I'd never written that, and I never would. However, I knew very well the single thing that could have ever made that note a reality. A voice played in my mind. Shiroya's fate is death. Those had been Sai's words, but they couldn't be true. I'd feared before that day would come, where I would no longer tell her how glad and thankful I was to have her. There was no way I'd let it happen. No, it wouldn't happen. That note had my handwriting, but it didn't mean anything. I would never write it, even if, at a later point, the worst happened. I wouldn't. But it existed. I had it in my hands. Where had it come from? I hadn't seen it on the floor, so it had to be in my pocket and fallen while I'd been sitting, or had someone left it there, knowing I'd come back. My heart rate alerted me of how anxious I was. My existence felt insignificant, but I still told myself I wouldn't let that reality happen. I burst through the door and was greeted once again by the desolate hallway back. I'd been tightly gripping the note, the thing I despised, with my right hand. I detested it and wanted to distance myself from it as much as I could, so I left it between the handrail and the wall to avoid touching it for even another second. Shiroya, hey, where are you? I needed to see her, and to know that my fears wouldn't turn out true. We just lost Miiya, but I knew that I wouldn't be myself again if something happened to Shiroya. Shiroya, can you hear me? I opened the room in front of me and left as soon as I saw it was empty. I kept crying out, impulsively exhausting myself as much as I could. You're okay, right? If you can hear me, please come out. Say something. Soon my voice started to crack as I realized how close it was to the reality in which my oldest friend had died. Sai had spoken it, like it was an absolute, and I'd found a note I'd wished I'd never read. I kept telling myself that there had to be another meaning, but my shouts devolved into hopeless crying until I fell to my knees in the middle of the hallway. I was so lost that I didn't consider the importance of the sound I'd heard. Footsteps. I suddenly processed it. Abruptly, I raised my head and turned to face the lobby. There, I saw a slender figure looking at me. It was Shiroya, her face near the breaking point. However, she wasn't the one I'd been thinking of. Her clothes were from the attic, and despite her expression, she felt wrong in a way I couldn't define. It seemed like she could disappear at any moment. Without taking my eyes off her, I stood up. She hadn't moved since we'd seen each other, so I began to warily approach her. Are you actually Shiroya? When I'd been crying her name, I'd only been wanting to find her, to be able to hug her tightly. After she'd suddenly appeared like that, though, I couldn't bring myself to go forth, unaware of whether I'd stop myself or her overwhelmed look had. If she hadn't heard me, she continued to stare at my chest with a melancholic look. Where were you? What's with those clothes? Are you the same person who disappeared with Sai? After some seconds, she finally answered. I'm sorry, I'm very confused too. I guess so, though. You guess so? What do you mean? You remember everything, right? Right now? She stopped. Yeah? She looked lost and glanced over my shoulder. When I realized she hadn't paused voluntarily, I turned around thinking she might have seen something. I'd failed to recognize the sound I'd been constantly looking for. Footsteps were approaching. However, a figure came with them. I could hardly believe my eyes until I understood what I was seeing had already occurred before. I'm glad you two are safe. I was a bit worried. What's with those clothes? You weren't wearing them earlier, were you? I couldn't act shocked or even surprised. Edna, who had died, was behind us, quietly approaching. It looked like she'd come from hallway C. Who the hell are you, or even... you... how can you two exist? What? It was the same thing. The body double I'd gone on about earlier. Edna's had appeared. And next to me must have been Shiroya's. Where were you? How'd you just appear out of nowhere? The confused expression she responded with was more than frustrating. I tried to focus on breathing to keep myself together. Just by looking at her, I noticed the two glaring details. She looked almost as if she was sedated and only partially conscious. Her voice and body movements had given off the same feeling, so it was clear that she wasn't in the best state either physically or mentally. But the major point was her clothes. Her chest was covered with the same bloodstain I'd seen before, and so were her legs, and the upper part of her face. I'd spotted the same scratches that indicated a fight, meaning that her body was identical to what I'd seen. What do you not understand? Did you just pop into existence at some point? No, why do you think that? Have you looked at that room? Your body is there. What? That one? It can't be. She staggered and took a while to complete her sentence. Trying to overcome whatever her condition was, she walked to it. The door was already partially open, so she just had to push it the rest of the way. I knew you were lying. I can't be here, of course not. I didn't have to move. Through the door, I could see that Edna's body had disappeared. Next to Naomi was Edna's curtain, but had been left on the floor with no trace of the corpse I'd attempted to dignify. Shiroya, what the hell is happening? Answer my other questions. How can you exist when it shouldn't be possible? Did the same thing happen to Edna? To Edna? She should be dead, right? Shiroya left my side to look through the door and saw that Naomi's corpse was the single remaining one. Wait, the cross! She was ahead of me, so I had the chance to look at the collar of her shirt where I'd drawn a black cross. It's not there. I'm sure that's the spot where I marked it. About Edna, I think what happened isn't what you think. It's probably right. I can't think of anything anymore. Under those stained clothes, there's a wound. There's no wound, right? Huh? Edna looked at her own chest and was taken aback by all the blood she saw on herself. There never was one. The body you think disappeared is her. Do you mean that she never died? She nodded. If that was the case, it was painfully simple, and I'd failed to think about it because of all the overlapping thoughts I'd had on the matter. I'd been thinking about a replicated body who'd shared the stained blood, but not any wound. Well, sure enough, we'd actually never confirmed that there'd been one. And of course, the blood, if it wasn't hers, there was another very clear candidate to consider. Are you serious? You were playing dead then, or just unconscious. It doesn't look like you feel very well. I'm not sure. I remember I was drawn to this room and then I think I blacked out. Drawn? By a noise? No, something stronger, but I'm not sure what exactly. I don't know whose blood this is, but since I woke up I felt groggy and numb. I see. Would we have known she was alive if we'd felt her pulse then? Her experience was enigmatic, but I understood what had come afterward. Could have been the result of our mistaken assumption. Shiroya, do you remember finding her body as well? And you realize what really happened? You still haven't explained what you're doing here. Are you the same Shiroya who disappeared from the event room with Sai? I wish I could explain everything to you, but I still don't really know what happened. But yes, I'm really glad to see you again. She smiled. It was her. The person I'd cried the name of, no matter how many questions surrounded her. She was okay. What's with those clothes then? Why is the cross not on them? Why did you ignore me when we saw each other in the event room, and when I kept shouting your name? Well, Hey, I'm still confused, but I have a question. Huh? Sekimeiya, does it really make you travel through time? How does it work then? What? If I understand it, touching it with your skin activates it, right? And you go far back into the past if it's out of the cabinet for a while. That's what I've been working under, yeah. I looked at Shiroya in case she found something wrong with those words, but she nodded, albeit uncertainly. I was thinking, why don't I just go back in time to save Eastwood? Neither of us knew how to answer. We concluded the past couldn't be altered, so that shouldn't have been possible. In the bedroom, despite managing to act semi-composed, Edna always looked sorrowful, and she tried to hope that her daughter had somehow survived. However, the woman in front of us was different. I don't know why I didn't think of it earlier. Someone killed her a few hours ago, so I just have to travel to that point and prevent it. But I couldn't find the Sekimeiya. I kept looking at Isla's face for a very long time, and she told me that she could be saved. Then I saw a girl, and after that I heard you shouting. A girl? You saw Shiroya? I guess it couldn't have been anyone else. It must have been Shiroya. I also saw what happened to Katai. It looked horrible. Did someone do that? Couldn't have been an accident. But anyway, the Sekimeiya's not in the event room. Are you sure? Do you know where it could be? I really need to find it. No, I suspect Sayo Akudo must have taken it. I hated it, but I couldn't tell where I'd hidden it. She couldn't accomplish anything by going to the past. She would have to experience Isla's death a second time. However, we'd never seen the Edina in the past, so I couldn't know for certain that she wouldn't travel. Are you lying? What? No, I'm not. She's been alive all this time. Could she see me bringing the Sekimeiya to the staff room? The way you two reacted, you don't want me to save Isla, do you? That's not it at all. Remember that Sai and Akudo took the cabinet key. They probably have the Sekimeiya. Shiroya was backing me up. I don't know why something about her still felt off, but I was starting to accept that it was actually her. We just have to clear things up and understand exactly what had happened. But she remembered having disappeared with Sai. That meant that she must have known I'd taken the Sekimeiya myself. But Edina didn't give in. It was clear that she didn't trust us after all. Despite what we talked about in the attic, she went to the event room, so we quietly walked behind. I knew it, you were lying. Huh? You don't want me to look at the cabinet? What? Behind the curtain was the glass, and behind that, the Sekimeiya I just left in the locker rested on top of the cushion. Shiroya looked at me confused. My words must have led her to think that the cabinet would be empty. It's teleporting. It must have teleported from the locker to the cabinet. And of course, it's no coincidental place. It must have returned to its starting point or something similar. A place where it has the cold temperature. Edina opened the glass and rolled the Sekimeiya into her purse, avoiding direct contact with it. Then she immediately left the curtain and pulled back again, to make it clear that she wouldn't put it back in. There was a long silence until the hallway A door opened. Wondering what else could happen, we turned to face it and saw someone step into the room. I wanted to yell at him as soon as I saw his face, but I was too fed up to do so. I looked around me and laughed internally. Having gone so quickly from thinking that I'd be alone to sharing a room with 3 people, being received with silence, Sai approached the cabinet. What's up? What the fuck are you even doing here? Did you succeed with this plan of yours? Oh, not quite, unfortunately. I thought Edina was dead. What's she doing with the Sekimeiya? You thought that too? No, I'm going to the past to save Isla. I doubt that. The past can't be changed. That's nonsense. I'm going to the past, so I'll prevent Isla from dying. You've used the Sekimeiya before, right? How long do I need to wait to go back enough hours? It should be about 15 minutes, but I still find it unlikely that you'll change anything. Might as well let it try. So, where the fuck did you go? Were you in the attic? Do you know where Shiroya went? I saw her disappear with you. Isn't she next to you? What's with those clothes anyway? Aren't they from here? Yeah, they are. I see. They're definitely an improvement for you. And just ignore me, Atsuki. I was busy sorting something out. Since Sai had entered, Shiroya hadn't taken her eyes off him. Immediately after the last line, her lips curled up into a smile for a second, and her eyebrows raised. More moments of silence followed. Edina still showed no signs of reconsideration, and we couldn't forcefully take the Sekimeiya from her. Sai had nonchalantly said that 15 minutes would be enough to go back many hours, when I'd just travelled approximately 20 minutes after storing that amount of time. I looked at Edina's purse, where the Sekimeiya must have been getting hotter and hotter. Wow, that's... Oh right, I'd forgotten about this too. Still with her groggy voice, she traced my gaze up to her purse and took out a small piece of paper. I found this just now. I tried to read it, but my head hurt a lot. Do you know what it is? She handed it to me and I snatched it away, gripping it tightly. My hands started trembling as soon as I glanced at the words again and saw those familiar letters. I left it behind without thinking about it, but I couldn't let Shiroya read it. Despite how suspicious it looked, I immediately stored it in my pocket. Hey, what was that? Shiroya and Edina also found my actions strange, but I couldn't let them read it under any circumstances. Shiroya would easily recognize my handwriting, so I'd run away if necessary. Don't mind me, like you said. You look pretty nervous. I saw something written there. You were pretty in control of things when you pulled off that trick with the key earlier, so why is this making you get all worked up? You want to hide it that badly? It's just a personal paper, it has nothing to do with you or the Sekimeiya. Very intriguing then. He didn't push it further, but at my side I saw a mix of confusion and sadness emanating from Shiroya. It was understandable. I still didn't know what she'd gone through, but before entering the tower, we'd spent many days mourning our loss, our shared company being a sullen healer. By saying it was a personal matter, I'd outright said I only wanted to hide it from her. I never made it apparent. I could have been hiding anything, no matter how small. I still had many more questions to ask her, but what would my response be if she ever inquired about it? Just tell her about it. Jesus, why are you hiding it? It's just a Just a story. When she saw that I had nothing else to say, she smiled bitterly and looked down at her feet. So, did any of you see Miiya? Wait, what? Who? You don't know her, right? I knew I wasn't going insane. How do you know that name? She's the person I was with earlier, before I saw you two. It just came back to me. I don't know where she went though. What? The fuck is going on? What's with that reaction? Don't you see she's just delirious? She didn't die, but I have a pretty good idea of what happened to her. Say, did you hallucinate someone? That's not it. That's not just some name she made up. Do you know this person then? We do, but Edina couldn't have seen her. She couldn't be here. Are you sure? She could have entered through the storeroom. She could have even travelled from the future since the Sekimeiya is bound to be exposed to the outside world. That's not what she means. She's not anywhere right now. Oh, is she dead? Wait, Miiya you said? No, she's with us. She has red hair, right? Miiya's hair was red. I recalled Akuto's voice from the time he'd lost some of his memories. What he'd said almost implied that he knew what happened to Miiya, and what we'd gone through. Did you actually see her? What'd she say? She told me her name, but she didn't look lost or anything. She knew me too. She just suddenly ran away, and I haven't seen her again. I definitely thought I had seen her before, but I honestly wasn't sure. What? Is Miiya here? Is she alive? Are we going to succeed and save her somehow? As soon as I felt hope building up, I tried to contain it. It didn't make sense. Why would she have been in the tower? Why would she not have shown herself? There was no way Miiya was nearby or anywhere. I don't know how to interpret this. Do you all agree to make up this story for when I appeared? Shut up. Well, I'm trying to figure things out for myself, and I thought I was close to understanding quite a bit. But now there's a bunch of shit I don't get, and it doesn't feel great. Well, welcome to the fucking club, asswipe. I didn't ask, but it sounded like he wasn't only talking about the sudden appearance of an unknown person. You mean, she died, right? Is saving her with the Sekimeiya not an option? So shut the fuck up. If it was, I promise you we would have done it. Once again, there was silence. You said yourself that you don't think the past could be changed. You just tried to tell Edina that. And now you're telling us we should go and save her? Once again, there was silence. Shiroya looked pensive, but I had no clue what was going on inside her head. I basically understood nothing about her. I couldn't assume that Edina had just hallucinated because she knew Miiya's name and appearance. But I also couldn't accept that she was inside the tower. Did Edina just lie? How would she know about it? And why would she do that? It's probably been close to 15 minutes already, right? I'd say so. So I looked at his watch. Yes, it's been almost 15 minutes since I arrived. Are you sure I'll go far enough back? She died at around 2 o'clock, right? It should be enough, yeah. I understood the lies, but not the heartless way in which he was deceiving her mother into thinking she was close to saving her daughter. It had probably been 15 minutes already though, so Edina would travel to the past if we didn't stop her. That's strange, once again, if she's about to travel to the past, how come her past self hasn't already appeared? And also, don't you think we should tell her how long she actually needs to wait? Of course, seeing her future self should be an impossibility, but why would she have decided not to show herself? Okay, I'm going then. Are all of you coming with me? No, but don't worry, we're far enough from you. So I stepped back a bit anyway. I understand. Well, goodbye for now. Earlier, Sai had travelled after storing energy for 15 minutes, the same amount. That time, I hadn't travelled despite having been next to Shiroya, so I knew how big the range would be. I stepped back too to be sure I wasn't included and wouldn't travel away from Shiroya. In a solemn manner and keeping her gaze on us, Edina reached for the Sekimeiya with her left hand. When she touched it, there was a change. Huh? What? Wait, what? None of us can understand what had occurred. Edina hadn't travelled. Sai had. Why didn't it work? Did Sai disappear? Was everything he said a lie? I couldn't fathom it. What had happened to find everything we'd learned? Shiroya and I had been pretty close to Edina, but going off Sai's previous travel, the range shouldn't have been large enough to pick us up. We'd been further back than Sai, but why had he been the only one to travel and what I'd thought earlier still applied? Where had his past self been all that time? Admit it. Did you ever want me to save Isla? Were you involved in the first place? You're wrong. We don't know how the Sekimeiya works, but this shouldn't have happened. I don't get it. Is this all nonsense? Can we not figure out how it works because it just does whatever it wants? It's been pretty consistent up until now, so what's this shit? Why did Edina not travel, but Sai did when he was out of range? There's even another instance. The first time I travelled, I went 20 minutes back, meaning the Sekimeiya had to be storing energy for 15 minutes. At the time, Sai was the closest person to me, and he was pretty much at the same distance he was from Edina just now, but he didn't travel then. No, I'm misinterpreting it. That has to be it. I assumed I knew what the range was, since the conditions were identical to Sai's last travel. It didn't travel that time, but Shiroya did. I didn't travel that time, even though she was next to me. That led me to think that I'd been just barely out of range, and that only she had been included. But that wasn't the case. I was also in range, and I didn't travel for another reason. It's like how Edina didn't just now. That's what I thought. Something prevented me from travelling, and it just did it again. And Sai was the only one who did. Just earlier, I told him that I'd seen Shiroya disappear with him. He must have realised that I hadn't travelled. So, since he'd set up the same conditions for Edina's travel, he felt safe at a slightly further distance than I'd been from him before. However, he just fell victim to my own misinterpretation. The previous time, the range had been big enough to encompass me, but I hadn't travelled. And in the last travel, the four of us might have been included, while only Sai had disappeared. What was the reason? It couldn't be that only two people could travel anymore. Was there anything that would make sense? Wait, where'd it go? I quickly looked up and saw Edina's desperate eyes. She was staring at her purse. It's not here. I'd been wrong. Sai hadn't been the only thing to disappear. The Sekimeiya also had. It teleported. I'd experienced it for the first time. The infamous teleportation we'd constantly thought about had shown itself to us. Edina's travel had activated it, taking Sai away in the process. I remembered what had happened just minutes prior, so I took a few steps forward. When I was in front of the cabinet, I crouched and grabbed the bottom of the curtain. I raised it violently to keep it from falling again. Behind the glass was the Sekimeiya. It had travelled from Edina's purse to the initial cabinet. Atsuki, tell me, what do I need to do to travel through time? Exactly what Sai and I told you. I don't know why it didn't just work just now. And since this confirms that it actually can teleport, there's no way I still have the Sekimeiya in the locker. In fact, the teleportation must have caused the illusion from the start, the other Sekimeiya. I'm not sure how it happened, but I bet it was the same one every time. Why is Sai not here already? Did he think of using the time he gained to do something? He must have gone about 20 minutes to the past, so he might have thought of a better course of action than rushing in as soon as possible. Realising our confusion was sincere, Edina's face went pale, and she would have fallen backward if the wall hadn't been there. Three towering questions just presented themselves to us, challenging everything up until this point. 1. Was the range really the same as the last time the Sekimeiya stored time for 15 minutes? 2. Why was Sai the only one to travel? 3. Why did the Sekimeiya instantly teleport away? Regarding the range, we can't know how it actually functions. I've assumed that it only starts to expand when time begins to be stored, but what if that's not the case? Could it also increase while the Sekimeiya's in the cabinet? Or what if the range from previous travels persists, for example? The second is the most confusing one. Edina, Shiroya and I haven't travelled. There's no way we weren't included in the range, is there? At least not Edina, who touched the Sekimeiya. It only worked for Sai. There's a reason why we were excluded, but is it reasonable to think I can figure it out? What does this do to the concept of range? Now, how can we be sure such a thing exists? Perhaps there's no range at all, and something else entirely determines who's included in the travel. And finally, why did the Sekimeiya disappear from Edina's purse? It's impossible that happens every time it's activated, and it didn't disappear when Sai and Shiroya travelled. Without a doubt, this is the strangest travel so far. The three questions might have all been connected to one single misconception. What are we supposed to do now? How am I supposed to understand this thing if it keeps breaking its own rules? How can I ever hope to use it for anything? Can I not save Isla? Why did it not work? Oh, of course. What was I even thinking? Travelling to the past is impossible. You lied about it since the beginning, right? That's why it didn't work. It can't actually happen. I actually fell for it. I was too lost to answer. Something had happened to Edina, that was for sure. She just witnessed Sai's disappearance but was accusing us of lying. It seemed that trying to explain ourselves wouldn't be much help. Just wait here, I'll be back in a second. Before she could react, I moved to hallway B. I need to check the staff room. The locker where I'd hidden the Sekimeiya was directly to my right. I unlocked it with the key and opened the door. The Sekimeiya wasn't there. Only the pants and coat remained inside. I closed the door and locked it again. I see, Shiroya was right then. The other time it did teleport away from Naomi's locker. In hallway B, I saw Shiroya waiting for me next to the event room. Did it disappear? Yeah. What else could have happened? I couldn't deny another person might have also had the key, But while I had the room to construct a theory that didn't involve self-teleportation, it seemed pointless to do so. Had someone put another Sekimeiya in the cabinet after having entered from hallway A? And while we'd been in the event room, they'd taken mine out of the staff room. There was no way. Nobody else had been involved. What do you want to do? Oh, I'm just intrigued by Sai's whereabouts because an extra version of him had existed somewhere in the past. Did we never see him in so many hours? So many hours, right. She thinks Sai might have appeared before Isla died. In reality, he went back about 20 minutes, if that's consistent. Although, she just went from saying time travel is impossible to thinking it is again. She's more unstable than I thought. She's dealing with a lot of shit right now. I'm not sure, but he has to be somewhere. I was a little frustrated by Shiroya's continued silence. She was definitely thinking about what had happened, but she might have had information I wasn't aware of, and nothing she'd revealed yet. The three of us were going over our thoughts when suddenly the door to the lobby opened. There you are. What were you doing? Huh? Something was strange and it immediately became apparent. Sai had shown up from the lobby, so I was relieved to know that he wouldn't be missing for too long. He, on the other hand, looked completely different. What the fuck? I'd never seen him so confused. He tried to have the upper hand in every situation, but his face told the truth. He couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. From his point of view, something was very wrong. Huh? Who the fuck are you? How are you here? From the event room, a door opened. After everything that had just happened. Then, when I saw who came out, I barely reacted. Whoa, what's this girl doing here? Those are the first words I'd heard from Arcado in hours. Recognizing the person who shared his bewilderment, he stepped next to Sai, while the three of us looked at each other in case someone understood what was occurring. Atsuki, now you have to answer. Who is she? Are you actually acting as if you don't recognize me? Of course we don't. Well, no. Of course we do. Aren't you dead? Again? Shiroya's fate is death. I need to say it. I've always wanted to, and I can't believe I never will. I love you. Nightmarish memories split my brain in half. It seemed like the world was abandoning all sense, morphing into something completely repulsive. Me? Why should I be dead? And you too, Eden. I thought you died. Isn't that what you said earlier? Earlier? What the hell are you talking about? Before the conversation could escalate further, I had to ask a very important question that had been repeating throughout our imprisonment. Sai, what time is it? It's 6:43. 6:43. That was about 20 minutes behind the real time I estimated. That meant that after travelling, Sai's replicated location had been of 20 minutes prior, and his watch hadn't stopped working. Why? Did you time travel? No, I didn't. He's right though. Are you a future version of Editor or something? What? Well, you're not dead after all, but we felt your pulse. In any case, I figured you would have come from the future. What even happened to you? I can't remember much. I think someone hit my head, and I fell unconscious. I don't know what happened before that. Yeah, that's about what we knew too. Sorry that we can't be much more use. I was losing it. I was about to explode. What the fuck was happening? Was it all a joke? Deliberately constructed to destroy me? I don't get it either, but I'm glad you're safe. This means you're not guaranteed to end up dead, but you! What even is your name? How did you get here? I've been here since the start. That's not true. It was the same thing in the attic. An Arcado had shown himself who claimed to only possess partial memories of what had occurred. Had Sai been a victim of that as well? Hold on though, your name, I think I might actually remember it. Shiroya, was it? My memories are a little foggy. She nodded, speechless. I thought so, like I said, I thought you died. As you can see, I'm alive. Do you have a twin by any chance? What? No. But then, it doesn't make any sense. I'm still really confused. What the fuck do you mean you're confused? You just showed up like that? Did you enter through the storeroom? I've been with you since 9 o'clock, Sai. That's a load of crap. Regardless, you'll definitely die. I'm sorry to tell you like that, but you're not making it easy for us. Atsuki, I know you know it. Yeah, I do, and she's telling the truth. Are you fucking with me? What's the point of lying so blatantly? He's telling the truth. Shiroya's been with us the entire time. The entire time. Not even you have been here since 9 o'clock. Excuse me? Well, you get what I mean. I don't remember when you got attacked or where you came from very well, right? Of course, Edna and Issa have been here the whole time, but not you. It was settled. They'd either gone completely insane, or their plan was to make us go insane. After being told once again that Shiroya's fate was sealed, I continued to search for a method to refute it. Oh. What? I turned to look at her, but I couldn't make heads or tails of her expression, her eyes fixed on a point in the distance. And that was all I knew. It had become a challenge just to know what anyone trapped in the tower was thinking. Did you notice something? I need to go somewhere. What? I'm sorry, I need to go to the attic. She ran toward hallway C. And there I stood, petrified, until she turned around to say one last thing. Please don't follow me. I could only stare at her eyes in search of any compassion. Why was she being so cryptic? With an apologetic look, she turned around and dashed off. Please don't follow me. Why? Why did she wanted to go alone? I might have looked devastated, but I was the only one trying to decipher the sudden change of behaviour my oldest friend had undergone. Wow, you just gonna let her go? Did you see how suspicious that was? Oh, that's fine. She's just gonna get herself killed somehow. It's already unavoidable. Why? Why is she gonna die? Did you hit your head or lose your memories? We know it'll happen. How? You seem pretty certain, so prove it. You know we can't anymore. What the fuck does that mean? Akuto looked at me as if he was witnessing a man who'd gone mad. What's with that look? Where did you even go? You just appeared again, out of nowhere. Huh? It's you who appeared again. I hit the wall, furious. Their responses were making my blood boil, like they were sneering at me. You too, Sai. Did your memories also happen to get fucked? You travelled from the event room, remember that? From the event room? No, I don't. Have you two just lost it completely? Or is this a side effect of the Sekimeiya? You can stop trying already. Since you started with that girl, you made it clear that you'll only spit out bullshit. I don't know what you're trying to pull, but you look pathetic. She'll come back whenever she feels like it, if she doesn't die in the process. Meanwhile, let's keep waiting for the shutter to open. I'd appreciate if you told the truth though. How did she get in? She was with us from the beginning. That's false. Since she seems to be with you, I really doubt you were stupid enough to make her enter through the storeroom. That's what's strange, but perhaps you did. Let me see. Indifferent to my confusion and rage, Sai walked to hallway C. What are you doing? Instead of answering, he entered the storeroom. Seconds later, he returned. I just wanted to verify that she hadn't entered through the storeroom yet. What? Have you thought of a plan to keep the Sekimeiya for yourself? Then, once you succeed, you'll eventually make her go back in time and appear in the tower and finish off whatever your plan requires? What are you even talking about? Maybe the two of you weren't enough, I don't know. If that's what you did though, you must have known you were sending her to die. Even if she was already supposed to be dead, I don't get exactly what your idea is, or how this all came to happen. It's very confusing. Again, what the fuck are you talking about? What does maybe the two of you weren't enough even mean? Of course I'm assuming Miiya's in on it as well. I gave up. I approached the nearest wall and kneeled next to it, only capable of breathing. It was incomprehensible. Nonsense. Not gonna keep trying to clear your name? I suppose it'd be futile with how obvious it is that it's your doing. Okay, I'll ask. How do you know about Miiya? What? She's been here since... That's it. Ignore him from now on. He can't get out of the corner he's backed himself into. I covered my eyes with my arm, applying as much pressure against my face as I could. Who had decided to make me go through hell? And why had Shiroya left me behind? Letting out a casual laugh, Sai sat next to me. Aren't you gonna follow her? It seemed really obvious that you gave her some kind of cue to leave, you know? Can you just shut up, Sai? God, I'm sick of your ass. She just got this blank look and suddenly had to go. Is that all you could come up with? I gave you a little bit of credit earlier, but honestly, what happened to Edna could definitely have been your doing. I pushed Sai aside with as much force as I could gather. If my mind had already broken, he was doing all he could to scatter the pieces around. That's harsh. I suppose it's the only way you can defend yourself. We'll see what your plan amounts to soon. Maybe not, actually. Maybe we'll just never see that girl again, at least not alive, of course. So I swear if you open your mouth again, I'm gonna fucking break it. I get it. Let's wait as much as you want. My vision was dark, partly covered by my arm, standing up where Akuto and Edna, whose expressions I couldn't see. Beyond the meaning behind Sai's words and Akuto's appearance, I couldn't get my thoughts off Shiroya. Why had she left like that? She hadn't even promised me she'd return. I tried not to let Sai's voice loop in my head, but there was no stopping it. Was she gonna die? Would I write that note? No, neither of those would happen. She wouldn't just leave like that if she thought there was a chance she would die. There must have been a good reason behind her actions. Alright, we're gonna wrap this one up here because we're out of time for today. Man, every character just gets more annoying as the game goes on, doesn't it? Especially Sai, though. He's so fucking irritating. So cocksure, isn't he? So cocksure of himself. He thinks he knows everything that's going on. He thinks he's a fucking genius. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks again out for me, and I'll see you in the next one.